would I consider what I saw recently to be a great update when it comes to Zebec? I would like to say yes for me, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Let me explain what I mean by this. So there's someone in the Zebec community that's very well known, and his name is ZBCN Man. So yeah, thank you so much, ZBCN Man, for posting that. I greatly appreciate it, and yeah, I hope you have a very nice day. But yeah, besides that point though, now what did he recently post? Did you know that he recently posted this schedule of when allegedly Simon, the CEO of Zebec, is going to be speaking on April 30th at XRP Las Vegas, the conference, right? Now, the timing of this, I think, could very well maybe somewhat indicate a clue in regard to maybe I would assume to be a hypothetical Ripple partnership, or maybe something announced along those lines. The reason why I think so is because if we take a look at it, we will see that again on Thursday, April 30th, 2026, at 11:40 a.m., Brad Garlinghouse, which of course we know is the CEO of Ripple, he's going to be speaking. Now, who's going to follow right after him? Allegedly at 12 p.m., it's going to be none other than Simon, the CEO of Zebec. So isn't the timing of that so close? Again, 11:40 a.m., Brad Garlinghouse, 12 p.m., Simon. But the cherry on top is that Simon is allegedly going to be announcing a quote-unquote major announcement at that event. So again, if he's planning for a major announcement and he's speaking right after Brad Garlinghouse, what could that mean? Now, we've already seen the Stellar partnership, so I think the next logical step may be that Ripple partnership, if it could even happen, that would be the massive cherry on top. But besides that point though, people like to say, well, Ripple is going to ignore this. Well, why? Like, first of all, we already know that when it comes to Zebec, it's already been able to do something in regard to Stellar. We already know that. And Stellar is really massive. No one thought that Zebec could do that quite a while back ago. Not to mention, we already saw Zebec not too long ago post how XRPL was one of the supported chains. We already saw that, right? So then when it comes to, let's say, a hypothetical Ripple partnership, why is that so far-fetched suddenly? It just doesn't seem that way to me. It's not like Zebec is some randomly ignored project that no one cares about. In terms of the global trade and finance space, we're taking a look at a project right here that's actually arguably top 5 in terms of popularity within this space. And sure, people may think it's a little bit comical because they say, wow, ZBCN, the current market cap is like around 270 million. How does that even make sense? But within the global trade and finance space, within this, again, specific space, there's just not too many famous competitors. Like, for instance, there are just not that many. Like, people usually think about Ripple, Stellar, they think about XDC, they think about Canton to a certain extent, and also Zebec, Onyx, XPR, Swiftcoin, but that's not that many, in my opinion. And we've already seen Zebec have a partnership with Lattice, which is on Canton anyways. And again, we've already seen a Stellar partnership. The Ripple partnership is that hypothetical missing piece, maybe, if it could even do that. And another clue as well was that, and again, I even mentioned this in one of my previous videos, XRP is now allegedly live on Solana. So the thing is, the pieces right there, wow. Because we all know that Solana Ventures is a backer when it comes to Zebec, and not to mention, Zebec does have an aspect of Solana. So again, when I take a look at all of this right here, I do find it to be pretty interesting. Keep in mind, when the market was doing a lot better, did you know that ZBCN was top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana? So it's not like it's just a completely cooked project like that. But besides that point, when I take a look at Brad Garlinghouse, did you know that in this itinerary, so to speak, right, in the schedule, I should say, it does say how at 11:40 a.m. he's going to be talking about things in regard to building utility and some others. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, we do know that Zebec does have an aspect of utility. Again, Zebec was not too long ago, like I mentioned before, top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana at one point. And again, Brad Garlinghouse is speaking right before Simon. That could maybe be, I think, another hypothetical clue. Now, not to mention though, if I take a look at it as well, Simon is going to be speaking about payrolls when it comes to this as a headline, so to speak, right, as kind of what is highlighted. And I do find it to be pretty interesting because I think this is something that people oftentimes find kind of boring when it comes to Zebec, but I don't think about it that way. I mean, if we think about Zebec, it's literally focused on something called instant payrolls. So when I was working back in college, I'd have to wait 2 weeks, which, isn't that long, but sometimes people do want it faster. What Zebec is focused on is the instant side of things. So maybe hypothetically, people don't have to wait 2 weeks. It's just like literally instant if we're talking about that in a literal sense. So imagine back then, which again, I wasn't getting it instantly. I was waiting 2 weeks back then. But besides that point, imagine when I was working at a buffet and instead of me waiting 2 weeks, I was getting it like just while I was actually doing it. Now, would that be pretty cool? Now, it depends, right? Because I did used to work at a concert hall and as well as a buffet back in college. But besides that point, if I just kind of put my lens back then, like when I was working back in college, I could see two perspectives when it comes to this because I personally know that a lot of my coworkers out there, if they got things instantly, I don't know if they would have saved up for rent. That's the thing, right? Now, waiting 2 weeks, even though it's sometimes considered quite a long time, for some of my friends out there, that's actually sometimes a blessing in disguise because at that time, right, that delay would have made them like, actually more, I guess, wise in terms of saving for rent and stuff like that. Whereas if they got it that instant day, if they got it instantly while they were doing that shift, I know a lot of my friends out there, a lot of my coworkers at the time, they would have probably just like, spent it all, right? So the thing is, I could see both ways. Some people like to say instant payrolls is not such a good thing. Sometimes they say it's a good thing. Again, there's two ways to take a look at it. Personally, for me, I don't necessarily think it's the best for every single enterprise out there, for every single individual. I don't think that is necessarily the case, but at least the option does exist. It's like, for instance, does everyone out there want a off-road vehicle? Probably not, but at least the option is there in case someone wants an off-road vehicle. That's the way I view it. I just don't think that it's necessarily such a bad thing if there is an option for something like that. Now, if I take a look at it, people also like to tell me that Zebec's focus on payrolls is kind of a gimmick. They like to say that, but I don't agree with that because personally, when I even take a look at Zebec's latest quarterly report, so it's for this year basically, now we have to take a look at their payroll volume, in my opinion. Now, the payroll volume was around $49 million monthly, and also there was 243 enterprise clients. So when it comes to the payroll side of things, it's not like it's doing so bad. So when people like to say, oh, no one's going to care about that. Well, imagine this. Did we have such a good start to this year in terms of this space, in terms of the sentiment? No, not really. And we still saw that much volume when it comes to the payroll side of things when it comes to Zebec. I find that to be pretty fascinating to me, actually. And I think it showcases that, Zebec's focus when it comes to that hasn't necessarily been a failure in that sense, because at least there's still some adoption. Now, ZBCN, it's still approximately down around 2 times from where it was last year at its peak, which was around June, basically, the start of June. At that point, people like to say, well, could ZBCN even ever turn back to that? Well, my perspective is this. As of right now, again, with around a 270 million market cap, we're basically around 2 times lower than that. The thing is, ZBCN doing around a 2x from where it is as of right now, I don't know if it sounds like the most ridiculous thing of all time. I don't know if it sounds that way to me because it's not like it's 30 times away or 50 times away. That's actually not the case. We're around 2 times lower than that. And not to mention, we actually increased in terms of the amount of holders. I'm not joking. ZBCN recently reached over 100,000 holders. So yeah, I mean, if the market sentiment were to go back to that point, I don't know if that market cap necessarily would surprise me, but we'll wait and see. I mean, I'm still waiting, but I'll be sure to make more updates when it comes to Zebec, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I just want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.